So it's mid-afternoon, and I promised myself I was going to get on the yoga mat. And I also missed leg day because I did a pretty hard run this morning. So I know I need to do a little bit of leg strengthening, but also some leg stretch. So let's do that on the yoga mat. The couple things you're going to need is a pole. I know people are tired of me using the pole, but I'm developing a little bit more practices using a pole. You can use a field hockey stick, a broom if you want, but this is literally a curtain rod because I didn't need all of the curtain rod in my apartment. The other thing you're going to need, definitely full show, and I always like to bring an extra towel to a yoga studio, is a towel, and you'll fold it into thirds, and we're going to roll on it. And as you can see, these are just old towels, and so it basically makes something nice and cushy for some of our floor stuff. And then we're going to need a yoga strap, and you don't need a formal yoga strap. This one I think was from I think I got this, just before I left for graduate school years ago. And but you can use a belt. I don't suggest you use those stretchy band things. I'm lost for words for what they're called, but basically that doesn't really help, and actually can jar your joints a little bit. And there's a time that we can use that. So this is going to be a power yoga class, and what I mean by power yoga is that we stay in poses for a little longer. So let's get started and make sure the dog is out of the way. So let's begin in child's pose. And if you would like to have your towel with you, sometimes it feels kind of nice to put your towel between your thighs and your ribs and just allow it to fall there. Or you can take your towel and set it behind your calves and kind of sit on that and fall forward. And of course, I have a Shih Tzu in front of me, as he always likes to get. Can you please get out of the way? Thank you. So I like to do my extended child's pose. And what this means is you just kind of let the torso fall over your thighs and extend your arms in front of you. And just notice your breath here. Just notice that, the diaphragm, if you take it deep within, down to the diaphragm, it's going to push against your thighs. If you know Ujjayi breath, that's ocean's breath, you can engage in that. And whatever distractions that might be bothering you at this moment, like a dog that wants to play, this is how we practice yoga. It's being able to steady the mind in the midst of chaos. And we know that we never try to stop the mind, but we stop the chattering and that excess. All of those thoughts that swirl in our mind. We just say, I'm not going to pay attention to you right now. I'm going to pay attention to my breath and my body relaxing over my
thighs that could be a little tight right now. And feel some stretching in your side body. So maybe extend your arms a little bit further forward. And what I like to do sometimes is walk my hands a little bit to the right. And that's going to feel really good on the left side body. And take a few breaths here, and then let's walk our hands over to the left. And feel the stretch in the right side body. And bring your arms back to center, and then just walk your hands so your torso comes back up. And let's do a little bit of opening up in the torso and your back. So again, if you've got a Shih Tzu around, they love this part of cat and cow. So I'm going to turn my body so you can see kind of what I'm doing here. I do have some other videos on cat and cow, but essentially what you're doing is you're going to curl so imagine, if you know where your lower back is, you're going to kind of pull the lower back so it extends up. Make sure my mic is still on. So you're basically pulling your belly in, so it's reaching to the sky. And then you do the opposite. So you're basically doing a curve in your back. So you do this on all fours. And I like to have my knees kind of wide apart so I have a little bit more opening in my spine. So inhale, we come into a cow pose, and I don't know why it's called a cow. And then exhale, see how much of a curve you can pull. And you can feel this in your shoulders, in your mid back, and in your lower back. Just get some movement here. So you basically just kind of, if you can, just imagine just kind of somebody pulling you by your hips. And then the opposite. So we don't get enough of this work, and this sometimes is why we get a little bit bound up in the lower back, especially in the morning. We get out of bed and we feel kind of stiff, and sometimes we get a little constipated. And then let's do some little hip circles, and it's not really hip circles. You're basically taking your butt and kind of making a smile with your hips. So just kind of like a smiley face here. And just feel the hips just kind of getting a little bit of juice going there. Because as we get older, our joints need a little bit longer to lubricate. So, we don't have that get up and go as we get older, and that's fine. Once the engine gets moving and everything, we can go pretty far, pretty fast, but it just takes us a little bit longer to warm up, and that's fine. Just
kind of wiggle the hips. So again, I'll be mindful with the time because I do want to get to the meat of the practice. What does that mean? Because I have a lot of fun tools that I can always teach, and I kind of get myself distracted. So from here, let's tuck your toes and just feel this right now. So if you're a runner, your feet are, they get a lot of damage. So tuck your toes and see if you can walk your knees back and just feel how your feet are just kind of like getting a nice stretch here. And I kind of, will walk, my hips back and forth, and you walk your knees further back, you get a little bit of heel stretch. So this is what I'm doing. If you can see it on this from the side, I'm just kind of walking my knees back, so I'm getting a nice heel stretch. And then see if you can walk your hands up and sit on your heels. And you're probably not going to be able to sit on your heels. And this is where this little bolster comes into play. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit on our towel. It gives us a little bit of height. I'm going to need to bring my heels a little bit closer together, and that's fine. Lots of cracking going on. And this is probably going to feel a little bit of tension in your thighs, but you're definitely going to feel your heels, your feet screaming. And that is really what yoga is how much can you handle screaming without it being a total strain beyond that edge. That's really what we're doing here. Charlie likes to practice yoga with me. And again, once he usually fixes on his chewy, he's usually okay. And take a notice of your belly. See if you can extend from the top of your head. One of my yoga teachers made us stay up here for like a minute, and I thought I was going to kill her. But eventually I worked up to like 5 minutes. But we won't go for that long. All right, so you can release that hold and just sit on your heels. And of course, again, if this is too much for your knees, you can sit onto your towel again. And just feel how that release, that letting go. And that's really how our lives work. We have a little bit of tension, we have a little bit of stress, but eventually it lets go, and that's where our parasympathetic nervous system kicks in. And that's what makes us a lot more resilient. All right. So from here, now that our toes are warmed up, let's see if we can come into a standing pose. So again, we're not going to do downward facing dog. So what we'll do is we'll tuck our toes again, walk our hands back. So come off onto our knees and walk our hands back. So if this is not accessible for you, that's fine. You can find your way up to standing. But what I like to do is just kind of let this be a nice little forward fold here. And your knees can be bent. In fact, I encourage them to be bent because it's pretty early in the practice. And what I like to do is I like to heel toe.
So just get a feeling for your calves here. So I come off onto my toes, raise the heels, and then come back and raise my toes off the mat. And that gets a lot of blood into our calves. It's really about just checking out those places in our bodies that tend to fall asleep. And then what happens is when these parts fall asleep, then other parts have to kick in. And then what happens is we get injured and we are leaning in a certain direction, and that causes more and more imbalance and more injury, more and more pain, and then we never find ourselves moving our bodies. All right, so let's see what we can do. Let's bend our knees a lot, just kind of walk your hands up. So this is where we want to grab our pole. Hi, Kona. All right. No. Sorry. All right, so this is what we'll do. We're going to do sun salutations with a pole. We're going to try. Because I find that there's a lot of really cool mobility that we can do. All right, so let's inhale, raise the arms up overhead. Exhale, fall forward. Inhale, draw the pole against your shins as you do a halfway lift. Exhale, come back down. Inhale, step your right foot back. Plant your toes, drop your knees. Drop your right knee. Inhale, come up. Raise your arms overhead. Woo! That feels pretty damn good on my right shin. Look at that. I can even see that my arms aren't even straight. How about that? So I'm noticing that I'm with my toes tucked, I'm getting that nice little stretch on my feet. And we want to make sure that our torso is perpendicular with our thigh. And that feels kind of nice. And now fall forward. Drop the pole for a second as we kick our foot back up into a forward fold. Grab the pole again. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, left foot steps back. Plant the knee. Keep the toes tucked. Inhale, arms overhead. Feel that beautiful stretch in your psoas, your iliopsoas. That gets a lot of tension, a lot of issues there. And it causes a lot of imbalance. And now let's come forward. And come back into our forward fold. Now, what I like to do is I like to take a little bit of break, suss out my legs, and I wiggle my hips back and forth. Let's move forward a little bit more. So inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, come back down. Inhale, come all the way up. Maybe a little bit of a back bend. Exhale, come back into your forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, maybe drop the pole, just give it a second. Right foot steps back. Knee down. Pick up the pole. Inhale, come back up. Exhale, come back onto
Just kind of do a side bend here. Just notice the extension in the right side as you're also getting a beautiful stretch on the right hip. Inhale, come back up. Exhale. Put the pole down, step forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step the left foot back. Plant the knee. Inhale, come back up. Now let's bend over to the other side. What? I'm feeling a lot of tension on this side. I can feel it right now. Just breathe into it. Ooh. Inhale, come back up. Exhale, drop the pole. Step the left foot forward. And then just kind of wiggle the hips back and forth. So that's like a little modified sun salutation. We're going to do another one where we're going to get our arms into it. So I was doing this last night and we will see how it works. All right, so let's bend our knees. So your feet are about a foot's distance apart or whatever feels good for you. Bend your knees as far as you can. I like to bend it so that, get off there. I like to bend so that my ribs are right on top of my thighs, and that really is what feels good for you. And sometimes you can let it rest. And now bring your pole up and just feel this tension right here. So your ribs, so you feel like a little bit of a mini crunch going on here. So we're kind of keeping a flat back or a neutral spine. And imagine there is a paper towel between your feet and you're pulling that paper towel, looking at my hands, pulling the paper towel apart. Bend your knees a little bit more. Bring your chest up a little bit more. Now try the opposite. See what happens if you try to squeeze your legs together. See, these isometric holds are really kind of great for you. Just feel that difference. What happens? What goes on when you are steady, but your body is moving in these small little ways? Whew. And let's fall forward into a forward fold. All right. You can rock your hips back and forth. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step back into a plank. And then drop your knees. Lower all the way down. Now grab your pole. Extend it forward. Inhale. Up a little bit into a little cobra. And then exhale. Plant your hands. Obviously, you're not bringing the pole with you. And come into a child's pose for a moment. Just give your body a little bit of rest. And now tuck your toes. Raise your hips. Come into a downward facing dog. And I like to pedal my feet back and forth.
wiggle my hips. Press into your knuckles of your hands, because lots of times we press too much into our wrists, but there's a couple of different cues you can use. You can either claw your fingers into the mat. That's one way. Or I like to just press my knuckles of my fingers into the mat, and that takes off some of the pressure in your wrists. And then just best as possible, you bend your knees if you need to, and I suggest that. And raise your tailbone, raise your butt high as you can as you press into your hands and feel the extension in your upper back. And then your shoulders, so the inside of your elbows are kind of, maybe looking towards one another. That closes your shoulder a little bit. And keep pressing with your hands. So press your hands away from your hips. And now let's come into a plank. Best as possible, step your right foot the front of your mat. We're going to bring our pole with us. So like we did earlier, let's inhale, bring your arms up overhead. And this time your knee is off of the mat. All right, so now let's come into a warrior 2. So the back foot turns, so it's parallel with the back edge of your mat. And now bring your pole around. Well, actually, let's do it first. So the front toe is pointing toward the front of your mat. See how well you can bend your right knee so that your thigh is aiming to get parallel with the floor. And make sure that you can see your big toe. And what I like to do is I like to bring the pole on, just kind of rest it just like this. And let's just hang out here, yeah? So there's a bunch of things that we do in Warrior 2 that we might not have time to do in a standard vinyasa class. And one of the things I like to do is just really just notice how the body is working to sustain you in this pose. So a lot of people will tell you to stamp the blade of your back foot down into the mat, and that's fine. But what I like to do also is put pressure into your big toe, like you're gonna kick off. So basically, put that pressure in there, but also turn the back left hip. See if you can turn the back hip towards the front of the mat and then turn it away. So that little articulation there. And just feel what feels good for you. The best way I like to feel it is with the hip open towards the side wall. And then check out what the front leg is doing. What I like to do is maybe raise the heel off the mat and then set it down. And then press in with that heel. What happens when you press in that heel? You can probably feel it in your right butt cheek. And now feel the opening in the shoulders. Keep your back foot pressing. So you should feel it in your left butt cheek, but more like the inside of your
left leg. Just notice all of these different muscles that are keeping you upright in here right now. And now let's change where the pole is and just move it behind us. So it's kind of in our mid back and our elbows are holding it in place. And if you'd like, you can take a break in the back hip. And extend the right leg straight. Maybe put a little bit of a bend into your right leg. Just a micro bend, not a lot. And just feel what it feels like to just kind of lean over a little bit. So it's like a mini triangle. And notice your body in this posture. Remember to press into your back foot. Feel the opening in the left hip. Feel the right leg steadying you. As you open your chest a little bit more towards the sky. And then come back up. And bend through the right knee. And feel this. So we took a little bit of a break in the right leg. Because, sorry, it's getting a little stressful for me. And now let's kind of do that same thing. And you can even use your hand to kind of guide you. Just kind of do that same thing. Except with the right leg bent. You can even just kind of thread the pole down so it reaches the floor. And look how good you can hang out now. I mean, you don't want to cheat, but you know, this is helping steadying you. But then we got to get out. Oh. Best as possible, press into your front heel. Extend your torso back up to the sky. Ugh. All right, so now let's come into, come off the back toes, the back heels, come into your lunge again. Get one more extension into your left hip. You extend the heel behind you. And let's bring the pole down. We can take a quick vinyasa. So step the right heel back, the right foot back. Lower onto your knees. You can do a chaturanga. You can do a cobra. You can do the cobra with the pole. You decide. And then exhale, tuck the toes. Come back into your downward facing dog. Pedal the feet out. And now left foot steps forward. We do it again. Steady yourself here. I like to do lunge rather than warrior one. I'll explain that another time. Bring your pole with you. Inhale, come on up. Ooh. My right knee, my left knee is the bad one, but my right knee was doing something funky yesterday. And now come into your warrior two. So just notice, you can just do those little adjustments. And bring the pole onto your shoulders and just feel that stretch, that lovely stretch into your your shoulders. And just, you can make your feet a little bit wider. Just how does it feel to really challenge your body but not overly stress it? Again, sometimes you can really get the knee parallel to the mat, but that might bring a lot of strain. But if you know that you're going to be here a little while, just maybe back off a little bit. Remember your back foot. So, we kind of get a little bit of extension in our leg by planting with the blade of our back foot. But you also want to get a pressing in with the right toe, but not so that we are hyperextending the knee of the back foot. And just kind of feel what that hip is doing, that back hip. You open it and try to close it. So my next plan is to do some stuff that's going to really target the sacrum and the psoas. So we do these small movements to kind of get some of that stuckness in our psoas and our sacrum. Just feel the strength building and the stretch as well. This is what yoga is all about. Now, extend the front leg. Sorry, I gotta wake myself up again. Extend the front leg. Let's bring the pole around. So I love this for the shoulder opening here. And so what we do is we kind of cock the front hip back a little bit in this posture. Bend the knee a little bit. Just a little bit, because we don't want to I tend to hyperextend, especially through this leg. And just kind of dip like a little teapot. And see if you can open your chest a little bit to the sky. Woo. And now just bring the torso back up and press through the front leg. Bend it. Get your posture first. Establish your stability before you move anything else. So get yourself stable here. And then let's dip over again into a little bit of a side angle. So you can use the left arm, so the front arm, to kind of press your torso and level it and keep yourself steady and stable, or you can just kind of wiggle. But as you can see, I can't do it on this side because I'm very, very stiff. So I'm just going to kind of hang out. Because I know that I'd rather practice yoga another day than to jar my body into injury. Because Lord knows I've done that plenty of times. Let's come back up. Let's bring ourselves back to our lunge. So turn the back foot. Get one more hip opening here. Juicy, 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 juicy. And let's come on down. Drop, pull, come back into plank. You can lower into chaturanga and then upward dog, or you can do your, just come onto your knees. And let's come into child's pose for a moment. So we're going to do one more standing. And this can give you an opportunity to do this on your own. So just tuck your toes, come back into a downward facing dog. And bring your pole with you. Come into forward fold. So bringing your pole with you. And inhale, come back up. So I was doing this yesterday, and I felt some serious, because I was supposed to do some weighted lunges, and it just wasn't feeling very good. But this is a way you can do lunges without really jarring too much. Okay, so we had the left leg under stress. So let's start with our right leg. So what we're going to do is we're going to come into lunge. You can use your pole as your anchor. So basically, like if you're doing a straight up lunge, come into a lunge. Just step your foot forward. And use the pole to help bring you back up. So this is where we feel our core come into play. So step back up. Step forward. Come back up. Step forward. Come back up. Step forward. So the core is going to help you come back up. So back knee just dips down, it kisses the floor. So I was doing a lot more than this, but I won't do that today. So let's do one more. Step forward. Bring the pole a little bit forward, and then come back off of your back foot. So you're basically doing a version of Warrior 3. See if you can level your hips. And then how well can you bring your torso up? And feel what it's like to just stand on one leg. So if you do this without the pole, your leg is going to be pretty fired up right now. But the pole is going to help just kind of get a feel for how much we need to be balanced. And there's actually an aging test that challenges you to close your eyes and be able to balance on one leg for 10 to 15 seconds. You can try it without the pole or with the pole. With the pole, it'll probably be easier. So feel how it feels just to see, what's going on with this leg.
And let's come back into our warrior three. Just kick the leg back. See if you can make it parallel to your mat, the floor. Feel your core engaged here. And bend through your front knee into your lunge. And use the pole to help you step back. There we go. Now your right butt cheek is probably on fire. It's time for your left butt cheek to get on fire. All right, so let's do this again. So you can plant the front, the pole. That'll be your stability. Step. Bend your knee. Make sure the back knee just kind of kisses. And this leg may feel better than the other one. Yesterday, when I was coming down, my right knee was doing this little funky pop, which tells me something. So it's important to tune in to like, what is your body doing and how is it responding? And is it responding differently on one side than it is the other? And that's important cues. That's what yoga is about, is paying attention. Paying attention. All right, let's step front. And hold. Let's anchor the pole in front of you. Step into a warrior three. See if you can bring your torso and your back leg parallel. There's probably a little bit of jittering in your front leg. See if you can press into the hip crease. Press your thigh away from you. Extend your crown of your head towards the front of the mat. See if you can bring your hips level. Bend the knee. Let's come on up. Yeah. So in a traditional power yoga class, we don't do this with a pole. But this is our way that we can work our way up. And now we got both dogs in here. So feel that stability. Press in with the pole. See if you can extend tall. You feel your core engaged? Press, extend, core is engaged. So again, you just feel what it's like here. Again, if you want to challenge yourself to, what does it feel like to not have that pole? Can you still keep that extension? Core engaged. And your butt's on fire, now mine is. And then plant the pole. Come back, bend the front knee just a little bit. Come into a warrior three. Bend the front knee just a scotchy. Come back into lunge. And that same fire that we built in our core, see if we can use that fire to come back up. Back up. There we go. All right. So hard part's over. Let's come back onto the floor. Okay, in a typical yoga class, I'm a lot more graceful about getting back to seated. Let's come into our seat. And this is usually when the dogs want to come and visit. All right, so let's come into all fours. So our hips were doing a lot of work. Our thighs were doing a lot of work. Oh yeah. So let's do what we can to draw our right knee in front of us like this. Okay? So look a little something like this. Okay? So this is where we can use our strap if we would like to. And I'm going to try not to have the dogs. So it's a little bit like this. And from here, you can fall onto your hip. Now, if that's too much, you can grab your pillow and set it underneath your right hip. So it's not a whole lot. Go away, go away, go away. So right now this is kind of like a version of pigeon pose. And you can stay here or you can work your foot, walk your foot a little bit forward. And it really just, just sense of like, is this going to help me or is this going to hurt me? So lots of athletes I know have an incredible amount of hip tension, both in the psoas, but also the outer hip. Basically, they just have a ton of tension. So this pose is actually a little stressful for athletes, but it really depends upon, it is totally fine if you do this posture with your, hip just like this. And that is going to get your psoas much better. But if you also want to get your outer hip, that's when we stop it. That's when we walk our heel a little bit over. So in a traditional yoga class, you're going to get, you're lucky if you get a couple of breaths in here. If I'm teaching yin, we spend about 5 minutes into this posture. So we're not going to spend too long in this, but just enough to get a little bit of stretch. Now, if you want, you can grab, and of course this is not going to work too because I'm cramping in my leg, but you can grab your strap. You can grab your strap and you can use it to get a lot more hip stretch. So at first it's going to bark at you. So, if you hook your foot in there, at first your hip is going to say, "What?" But if you just kind of suss out, hey, it's not too bad. And then eventually you can grab the foot with your hand. And get the full stretch. So it's kind of like a quad stretch, yeah. So you also get a nice little juicy stretch in your shoulder, which is why I like to do it this way. And then let's release. Just come onto the hips and just notice, you can remove the pillow and just notice like your hips are kind of like in this figure 4 here. You can actually make it into the figure 4, what they call 90-90, I don't know. So this might actually feel good is if you just roll onto your front shin. So again, this is like 90-90 or... And I like this too because this is when you do get the outer hip of your right thigh, your right thigh. But I also like the little bit of stretch I get in... Oops, did I just turn myself off? In my right... the back of my right hip. So my lower back on the right side. There's just a lot of muscles, a lot of tension in there, especially again because I went running this morning and I do a lot of too much effort into that because my core is still pretty weak, which tends to happen as we age. And so what's nice about this pose is you can do it on a bed and it actually feels really good. All right, so let's do our little 90-90 or like your little deer pose or whatever, and just kind of windshield wiper your knees back and forth. I'm going to say I was turning my mic on and off, which I expect to do. All right, so let's swing around on the other side. So how do we set this up? Choose your props. Choose. It's your choice. Everyone says it's your practice. Yeah, it's your practice, but how many times do people say, oh, it's your practice, yet they're looking at what everyone else is doing. Oh, well, they're doing handstand, so let me try a handstand and then throw a shoulder out. Yeah, okay, that's a good idea. All right. So how do we get from there? Remember, you can start on all fours. Bring the knee forward. Set it back. So we want to make sure that we're getting the back hip and a little psoas release there. Okay. So the front knee is going to be right up against your crotch. You decide what's going to feel good for you. Again, you can bring your towel and just kind of kick it underneath. And that just kind of relaxes it a little bit. And then you decide, do you want to walk the foot so the shin is a little bit more at a right angle, but it's really not necessary. It really just what feels good for you. What's really important here right now from my perspective is this back hip. And just make sure you're anchoring, just moving the torso so it's over your knee. And personally, I could spend a long time in this version of Pigeon because it does oh so much for a lot of the tension in the hips. And so for me, this hip is a little less rigid. So I can bend this knee and grab it. Or, oh, I'm lying. I'm getting a cramp in this leg. I need to hydrate. So I wake myself up again. Again, one day I will figure out what setting on my computer so I don't bring my computer to sleep. So you can grab your strap, loop it around. So again, so as we get older, it's okay that we use these straps. Because the body will react and cause more tension and stress if you push yourself into a pose that you're not ready for. So lots of times, especially since I've been doing this for, a couple of decades now, it's just a matter of your body saying, oh, wait, right, I remember this pose. I like this pose. And that's kind of what's going on is, and then it softens. So that's why yin practices are really, really good for older adults, midlife adults, because they do allow for a softer version of a posture, and you kind of melt into the pose rather than demand that your body be a certain way. So wow, I've got a lot of hip tension in here. Gotta work that out. Flip the hand. And then we come down, bring the knees to about a 90-90. Excuse me, Charlie. And you get rid of your bolster. Yeah, I love it when you do yoga at home and somebody says, oh, just grab your bolster and all this other stuff. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Not everybody has a bolster. I mean, I have a bolster because I'm a yoga teacher, but not everybody who practices yoga at home has that. So then let's just kind of fold over the front shin to really get that beautiful hip stretch. And just notice that you can do this much more easily now that the body's kind of loosened up a little bit. So you can do this version of pigeon. That's technically not pigeon, but just notice that you probably won't be able to straighten the leg behind you. So in other words, we do the front hip stretch first, and then we do the side body stretch and the left hip stretch second, the outer hip stretch. Come on, stop it. I've had this dog for 2 years now and hoping that he would settle down, but he has not. So let's walk the torso up. Windshield wipe the knees. No, 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 no. So hopefully that feels pretty good. So let's do one more stretch on our back. So lie on your back and grab your right knee. If you've ever practiced power yoga before, you know that Brian Kest loves this stretch. So grab the right knee, pull it as close to your chest as possible. Extend the left leg straight. And now fold the right leg over to the left. Grab it with your left hand. Open your right arm like a wing. Now, if you can hear that thudding, that is my neighbor upstairs. That's Thumper It's a little boy who has about as much energy as this dog right here. This is what Charlie does when I do a practice. Excuse me. Excuse me. So this allows you to open up your right shoulder and allow the right hip to relax. And this is a beautiful twist. See if you can maybe pull your belly button a little bit over to your right. A little bit. I'm not going to get there, but just this nice little spinal twist as we finish up. And then draw your leg back up. Excuse me, Kona. Draw both knees into your chest and extend your right leg straight. Squeeze your left leg in front, left leg towards your chest. So how much can you extend the right leg? Just get that nice, beautiful squeeze. You can see the dogs just love to entertain. They were always really good when I used to teach live yoga and meditation and trying to quiet everyone, which is why I don't do live anymore for obvious reasons. And then grab your left knee with your right hand. Extend your left arm out like a wing, and then pull your left knee over to your right. Oh, this one's saying, not just yet. So I was having problems with my left. Ooh, there's a little popping going on. Having problems with my left shoulder for about 6 months, and then before that was my right shoulder for about 6 months. And it really is all tied to how the body holds on to tension. And the shoulder might have nothing to do with your shoulder. It could be tension in your hips. It could be something in your upper back. For me, my physical therapist said it's because your back isn't strong. And I'm like, what do you mean my back isn't strong? And there are places in my back that were weak, and other parts of my body was kicking in, and that was causing neck and shoulder tension. So that's why we want to balance our body and use our yoga practice to see where our weakness is. Acknowledge it, and then take that into the practice and work on it, work through it. So let's draw the torso back into center. Squeeze the knee one last time. Let's do one more squeeze of your knees into the chest, and just I like to wiggle my knees back and forth and just get a little sacral massage. Do that smiley thing one more time. Stop it. Squeeze your knees into the chest one more time. And extend your legs towards the mat. Let your feet flop open. You can make your arms out like a star. You can bring your hands over next to your side. You can put your hands over your head. What feels good for you? And if you need a little bit of padding, you can bring that bolster and you can unfold it and use it to prop up your knees.
So like this. You can use 2 of them if you'd like. And come flat onto the mat. And just take a few moments. Just feel that release. That saying, oh, wow, I did something good for myself. And now I reap the rewards. So let's do some progressive muscle relaxation. So squeeze your toes together on the inhale, and exhale, release them. Inhale, squeeze your calves tight as possible. Squeeze them tight. And exhale, relax. Inhale, squeeze your legs, so your hamstrings, your thighs. Squeeze those muscles. And then relax. Inhale, squeeze your buttocks, clench them. Clench your pelvic floor, squeeze everything, squeeze it hard. Release, relax. Inhale, hunch your shoulders, hunch them up high. And release, relax them. Let's move to your arms. Inhale, squeeze your fists, clench your biceps, forearms, everything. Clench, 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 release, relax, exhale. Inhale, clench your face, all your face muscles, like you bit a lemon. And then release, exhale, relax. And with this next inhale, all of your muscles, every muscles that you can get, every single muscle, inhale, squeeze, 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 squeeze. Exhale, relax. So it's okay to relax. We need to know that balance. Yoga means balance. Yoga is recognizing when is it the appropriate time to act, and when is it the appropriate time to let go. When do we run? And when do we rest?
It's a matter of charting our own path, not looking at what everyone else is doing, because that gets us in a state of reaction rather about what's going on outside my yoga mat. I need to pay attention to what my inner voice is telling me. And even when we have those distractions, such as dogs or fire alarms or kids upstairs, we can maintain our concentration. We can keep our focus. We can stay that course that we've charted. And we also keep our eyes, our minds, our inner eye open to when is it the right time to turn. Turn left, turn right, or turn around. So if it's not clear, this is my favorite part of teaching yoga, is people see how yoga can change their lives. I know it's changed mine. You're still the same to a certain extent, but you have that inner awareness, that inner knowing that there's something greater going on. And that's your path to liberation. So if you're still with us, you can extend your arms overhead. Give yourself a big stretch, like you're waking up for the day. And oftentimes I like to bring my knees into my chest and give myself a little sacral massage. Again, just kind of wiggle my hips back and forth because my back seize up sometimes. I have my knees propped up. And when you're ready, fall onto one side. It's up to you which side that's appropriate for you. Your left side, your right side. Just kind of hang out in a fetal position for a moment. And whatever side you are, take the top arm, press that top arm in, and just slowly come back up to a seat. You can sit on your towel. I'm doing. It gives a little bit of release. So you're not arching your lower back. You're not straining it. And just sit for a moment. And hopefully you feel a little bit different. And from here, you can go on to a meditation practice, a breath practice, or you can just seal this practice where it is and say, you know, that's just fine. Wherever you are, take care.